Or no, don't be sorry, be better.
That's it. All right, do you know who Abraham Maslow is?
No.
So he was an American psychologist, and he came up with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Do you know what that is?
A hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
I can guess.
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I learned about it, like, in, like, Psych 101 when I was in college and stuff like that. But basically what it is this guy made a pyramid of all of, like, human needs. And the foundation of the pyramid is the stuff you need. And then the top is stuff you need to thrive, but isn't necessarily a need. So, like, for example, like the foundation of the pyramid, like the very bottom is physiological needs. So, like breathing, food, water, shelter, clothes, and sleep. Like, you need to meet those needs in order to have anything else on the pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next one up after those is safety and security. That's health, prosperity, family, and social ability. And then love and belonging and self-actualization are the top. Realistically, when it comes to like homesteading though, the bottom two are really what you want to look at. And the reason I like brought this up is a year and a half ago when I was like, all right, I want to try to become as self-sufficient as possible. I kind of looked at that to kind of figure out where to start. And obviously at the base, food, water, shelter are the three big ones that I figured, like, those have to be the starting points. So, shelter, we have a house, but that also could include, like, warmth and stuff like that. Yeah, shelter is a need, and it's kind of already met. And then we have water and food. And really what I did is I was like, okay, I looked at how each of these things were currently met. Like, how are we currently meeting our water needs from the well, powered by electricity? So,
but if the power's out, there's a way to get the water from the well, isn't
there's not.
There?
If we...
There was for some reason.
No, not with the setup we have now. If we don't have electricity, we don't have water. We could, like, set up what they call a tap well. And it's basically like in one of the low spots in the yard. There's like it's like a telescopic pole almost. And you hit it with a sledgehammer and drive it down into the ground until you hit the water table. And then once you hit the water table, you drive down a little more, and then you put a hand pump on the top. And then you can pump water out manually. That doesn't rely on electricity. And you'd have water in the event you don't have electricity. That also makes me think, too, because since we have the well system now, we have the well in the front that's tapped. I bet you could put a hand pump in the basement on the actual, like, intake of the, not intake, the outtake of the water. Now, that's worst case scenario, like electricity's not coming back and we need to figure out how to get water, but really with the tap, but where I'm getting at with this is like, the solution for water is not simple, but it's a relatively easy fix. We could also get lake water and purify it and boil it.
Which we have all the equipment for.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly still would like rain barrels, like proper ones.
Yeah, the tough thing with rain barrels, that's not good drinking water. Because the water sits for too long.
Wouldn't it be good for the ducks?
Yeah, it would be fine for like
the ducks the animals. Like,
yeah, rain barrels will be fine for like watering the garden and like an emergency like the animals. But it wouldn't be a good like alternative to our drinking water if we didn't have like the well. But the reason I wanted to start with food rather than water is food is going to take years to master. And you're not just going to wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to grow and preserve all my own food. Like, being able to actually do that takes years and years of practice and trial and error and, like, learning.
Unless you're me, I could do it. I just want you to have a challenge.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. But that's why most of our stuff that we're doing, most of the things we're talking about self-sufficiency, but almost everything we're doing is just in relation to food, because that's where we're at right now. If, in 10 years we master the food thing and we are producing most of our own food, then maybe we'll look into like, okay, get water. And electricity is another big one because we're still on the power grid. We don't have like an independent electricity thing. but I'm not. When it comes to electricity, and especially in like the view of self sufficiency, electricity is just a comfort. Like civilization thrived for thousands of years without
Without it,
electricity.
yeah.
So that doesn't mean don't use electricity though,
Mhm.
because obviously we have it now. We should enjoy it while we have it. I do think it's worthwhile learning how to meet all your needs without electricity rather than trying to build a backup electricity thing. Like I think it's
So like not using solar and
yeah,
stuff, like living without
yeah.
power.
Well, one, we wouldn't be able to do solar here. We don't get enough sun anywhere on our property.
No, yeah.
So realistically, the only internalized like power thing we could do is probably a windmill, and
Hmm.
those aren't great.
And yeah, they're not.
But that's kind of where I stand is if you're going to internalize your electricity, you're kind of not doing yourself any favors if you don't know how to meet your needs without electricity at all. So that's kind of where I stand on electricity, but I'm kind of just talking about why most of our stuff now is just food production, even though like the overall like thing that we're claiming we're going for is self-sufficiency. But it's because food production's a big one. It's a good place to start. I think it's the best place to start. But what do you think?
Well, I think it's the best place to start because we do have all the comforts. We're not
Yeah.
actually needing to be self-sufficient yet.
Yeah.
But it's nice too to get this going. Like, I mean, in case there ever is like a power thing, and I mean, like the first thing that's going to be flooded if the world doesn't have electricity is the grocery stores and stuff. I feel.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have looting, and just like with any thing
Yeah.
that goes on, looting seems to follow it. So if we can do most of our food, which having eggs alone is a lifesaver because it's high protein. But like to have a variety of food to keep healthy diets and stuff because
Yeah.
any too much of anything is not a good thing.
Yeah. And
Um,
food production is also really what we're looking at here because hunting and fishing is a good way to like supplement your food. But in the event where everybody has to like get their own food, all the animals, all the fish, all that shit's gonna be gone fast.
yeah, I think
You
I would
know?
just keep
Yeah.
breeding our chickens, like
Yeah.
having the chickens lay and hatch, and then honestly, I would just eat rooster because at that point you're not concerned about the quality of the meat as long as
Yeah.
it's edible.
Yeah.
You just need a protein source or a meat. I mean, arguably you don't have to have meat, but
Yeah.
I think that's what I would do.
Yeah. And also too, I mean, this is obviously a hypothetical situation, but if we were in a position to where food was scarce and everybody around us hunted and fished all the animals to extinction around us and there's nowhere to find food, we're getting out of here. Like
Oh yeah,
because now we're risking people coming to hurt us for our food.
yeah. No.
So yeah, we're getting out of here. Like we're not gonna hang around in that event. So
I think what would be cool is if we were ever, lucky and won the lottery. We don't play, but uh, I I think it would be cool to have, if we were well off enough, a second property that is off grid,
yeah,
and that would be a fun thing. But like, I wouldn't want it like super far from here either, just because it would be nice to, if we want to utilize that property for food growth too, you'd want it close so you can still tend to it
yeah.
and that kind of stuff. But
I'm
it'd also be cool to like, see how it is, for a week without
yeah.
and stuff.
I do like that idea a lot.
But of course, you have to have money for property,
Yes.
so it's a little unrealistic.
I don't think it's that unrealistic because the off-grid properties are typically cheaper because the off-grid houses aren't as
They're not
comfortable as
as
regular houses.
desirable.
So I will say though, I am skeptical of that idea with being in New England. I don't think in any dire like situation, whether it's political, economic, like apocalyptic, New England isn't a terrible place to be because we have harsh winters and the population here
It's huge,
is
yeah.
way bigger than what the resources can support.
And even if a place seems secluded, it's not. Even if it's off grid, it's not that off grid.
Like
everybody,
everybody,
it's not that far from the highway.
yeah, everybody from Boston and New York is coming up here. Everyone is. They're all getting out of the city and they're all going to the rural areas. Like it'll be
Well,
like
New
populated quick.
Hampshire in the past 4 years has already had an influx of people because it's a desirable location. It's like
Yeah.
when we lived in Colorado. I mean, even in your 5 years in Colorado, you saw the population like tremendously increase.
Oh yeah.
Now imagine when I moved there 15 years ago, and Erie was still this old farming town that didn't have that high school and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like, and then in 10 years, it's what it is today.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's insane.
It's got 2
To
high
think
schools.
that, like, I remember this. Well, they're building a second high school. They don't have it yet.
Yeah.
That one next to the high school is a K through 8.
Well, look at where we live too. Like when we lived up there, I like realistically, our town's population quadrupled in the 5 years we were there.
Yeah, and that was a
crazy.
smaller town in that
Yeah.
time. And I honestly, I don't think they're going to be any indifferent. I think it's hitting Firestone and Frederick first, and then it's going to be Dacono.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Dacono is just going to get absorbed by Frederick.
Yeah.
Because they're already called Tri-City, so like, and Dacono's so small, like it doesn't have very much land.
Yeah.
So why not just be part of Frederick?
And also, like this mass like movement of people to Colorado, it wasn't an immigration issue either.
No,
like these were Americans like coming from other states.
It was a lot of people from the East Coast and a lot of people from the West Coast.
Yeah.
Not so much from California, not so much Washington and Oregon, because those are desirable places too.
Yeah.
But I mean, people. It's funny because people always are like, "Oh, well, Colorado has cold, harsh winters," and I'm like, "Not really.
Not really. Yeah.
Not really. Like honestly, as far as the climate goes, the only thing I can knock Colorado for is they don't get really pretty falls.
Yeah.
Because the fall is really pretty out here because there's all these trees and this and that. But, like, as far as the winter in Colorado, like, yeah, you might get a couple snow dumps, but then the sun will be out within a couple days. And because of that, they're horrible at plowing the roads. But it's an ideal area. I think that's why it's desirable, because you get all the season changes, but it's not brutal. Because the winters are the brutalist out here. Because I know by the end of February, we're like, okay, we're ready to move back to Colorado.
Yeah. I was having this conversation with my dad not too long ago, but with this, it's like if we need to get out of New England and we need to go settle somewhere else, like, and everybody's leaving New England, I don't think Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, all of New York and Boston are going up there. Like, stay away from there. I think the ideal place to be would be either the Dakotas or Minnesota. And here's my reason why, though. It's because those do have really harsh winters, which means no one's going there.
Yeah, but Wyoming does too.
Yeah, but a lot of people I think are going to go to Wyoming too. I think you're going to get a lot.
I don't know. They've had trouble growing.
Well,
over the
it
past
really
years.
depends on if people are escaping the East Coast and going to the Midwest. That means the Midwest is safe. It could be a scenario where the middle of the country is not safe and people are coming this way too. It really depends on like the scenario in which you have to move, and move quickly. But yeah, that's all
I think at that point, like, I don't know, like, if the country's really that unsafe and there's not really like a stable place that feels like, I'd probably go in the thick of the woods and like be mountain men or whatever. Like,
yeah, I don't think that'd be a bad idea.
Maybe not necessarily like the thick of the, bring a couple chickens so we can.
Yeah.
So like, because those you can transport pretty easy. Get a cat carrier, like. I would try and take them. Yeah. I would try and take the chickens because I know we've agreed that nomadic would probably be the best. But what if we, could start in the woods and build our own little hut?
Yeah.
And then, like, if we sense trouble or people are near
closing in and stuff,
then we go and find another place, like hike. Because I don't think a lot of people are going to do that because they're still going to want comfort in their homes. Yeah. And buildings and stuff.
And, I've had conversations. A lot of people don't like having these conversations because it's, like, it's a very downer conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Which tells me, like, there's a lot of people out there that if faced with that scenario, they would just give up. which is
Oh,
dark,
I think
but
yeah.
but at the same time, it's I don't know. I can't do that. Like I can't just give up, because
No, I'm the
you
same
don't know what
way.
tomorrow's gonna bring. And here's the thing: if we lost all of our comforts tomorrow, and we were living like we were settlers in the 1600, and it was chaos and it was shitty, we're
Hmm.
still gonna have happy moments.
Oh
We're
yeah,
still gonna have times of peace where we laugh and
yeah.
life will still show like beauty here and there. So I can't wrap my head around like having a bad catastrophe happen and then me just being like I'm giving up.
I think
You
that's
know,
the most optimistic I've ever heard you be.
thank you.
Normally you're pretty realistic and stuff,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, you're right. There's always going to be good times. I
Mm,
mean, it's like night and day. You're going to have good and bad times, right?
yeah.
Tale as old as time. And people have done it before. I think it'd be a shock, and it would maybe take a full year for the world to adjust, and that means probably a lot of loss,
Yeah.
probably a lot of violence, but then things would inevitably settle.
That balance back out. Yeah.
Because there's always, I feel like there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. That's yeah, because
I think the
eventually
only
someone would reestablish electricity, or it would really depend on the workforce too. I mean, if population's really scarce, I mean, then it's going to really depend on like what your capabilities are industrially to like stand up
Well,
electricity and stuff like that.
you might just be in colonial times for
Yeah,
a little bit, like you know.
yeah. I got to get some like
The
colonial
nice
books and
thing
find out how they did
the
stuff.
nice thing is people still write books.
Yeah.
People still write books on how to do things like so. If the internet goes out, yeah, your research would be a little more strained,
Hmm.
but like people there's books and books and books on things like my favorite series is the For Dummies because
Oh yeah.
they really do dumb it down and it's one a funny title but like it also is like oh yeah this is actually great because it's like step by step on how to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch just on your optimism a little bit just because um that's like something I'm trying to be better about is like just being more positive because I think when you have a lot of negative around you, not saying obviously not in this household or anything, except Rosie today. I'm just kidding. I still love her. But I've noticed that since moving here with the challenges of because I'm sorry, New England is a different culture
Oh yeah.
than the Midwest, than Colorado.
Yeah.
And I lived in Michigan where everyone is super sweet to each other, and then I lived in Colorado where it's you get 50-50 because it's a transplant state. And so, like, adjusting to the road rage, adjusting to just different mentalities, it has been a struggle for me. And then, like, I've been exposed to some super negative people, and I've noticed myself being negative too.
Yeah.
And that makes life hard if you're not like, okay, look, this is so, and especially when home is good. Home is good, so what do I have to be negative about? I've got 2 dogs, an okay husband.
Yeah.
But like that's what I'm saying. It's like, what do I have to be negative about? At the end of the day, yeah, we've gone through our like challenges just with life as well. But like we still don't have that much to be negative about.
No.
I need to get
No.
back to the mentality where I'm like, I used to be the person who's like, it could always be worse, and I'd pick myself back up. But I've been like soaking in my misery lately, and I'm like, I just need to be more positive because that does go a long way, and I do believe in like mind over matter and stuff too.
Oh yeah. The placebo effect's real.
Oh yeah, I mean they've proven that by prescribing basically sugar
Mm-hmm.
pills, and yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, sorry to get off topic a little there. I just think
Not
that that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately is and I there's a couple people I know who are just so positive no matter what hits them and I'm like, I need to be more like that.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
I don't
it's
think
just
that's
like
off
you
topic
don't
at
like
all. Because if you're the type of person that's thinking about attempting to become self-sufficient, or in our case, as self-sufficient as possible, you're gonna have to sacrifice some comforts here and there.
Oh yeah.
And you gotta decide which ones. But also, like, it depends on like what your mentality is. If you have that prepper mindset, you do kind of need to really reconcile with yourself, like, where's my head going to be at in these really dark and hard times? And kind of understanding, like, okay, like identifying where the optimism is now. So if that does come, God forbid, like something like that happens, you've already thought through, like, oh yeah, remember, like, we will have happy times. We just, got to get through now.
So if you don't mind me asking, because I have obviously an idea of what I think it would be for you, but I want to hear if you're self-aware. What would be an area where you think? Because I admitted my area of weakness, like the not being positive. What do you think something you'd have to work on if something like that happened?
Um, what I have to work on?
Like just to make it like more positive, like
I'd have to have more patience. Yeah, I'd
that's
have
what
to
I
have
was
more
thinking.
patience.
You're a pretty self-aware individual. I think we both are.
Yeah.
And I think that I just wanted to make sure I was on like the right track.
Yeah, you weren't being crazy, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think my biggest flaw is I definitely can have short patience sometimes, especially with stuff that doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
You know?
My favorite thing is watching you and your dad work on a project together because it's like such similar mannerisms that your mom and I have. Your mom warned me when you guys were putting in the washer and dryer. Your mom's like, don't even try and help. Like, let's just go in the living room because you both were, which was a frustrating project, but it is funny because that's where I do see you and your dad have similarities. Just the
Yeah.
quick, oh, it's not going my way. I'm
Didn't go as
frustrated.
planned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how many
Well,
things in life really go as planned?
it's funny because often, like, I used to work in medicine. Like, I've had jobs to where I need patience, and when it's like important or it's somebody else, I am pretty good at being patient. But I will lose my patience so quickly on something so minuscule and unimportant. And that is something I could work on, obviously. But
I just
who
think it's
knows?
because I'm just thinking of the things that if something were to go south, God forbid,
Mm-hmm.
uh, how we would be together too. And I think we're pretty good. Like I've gotten better about not being like, "Are you mad at me? Are you mad at me?"
Yeah.
Because I mean that was also like I feel like when the mood is bad, it's my fault.
Yes. It's very annoying.
I know, and
Never,
then
it's
you do
never
get,
your fault.
and then you do get that. My brother, same thing.
Yeah.
Growing up with two sisters, and we would always do that, and he's like, "No, but I'm getting mad."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a girl thing, I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
Or a Holton women thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like talking about this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. I have other plans too for like episodes that we can do because we've done one before where we talk about like where I kind of just outline like one of these end of the world scenarios.
Oh yeah,
And we do exactly what we just did, and we kind of talk through like, okay, what are we actually doing in this scenario?
That's what I was gonna say. I think the only time where I would be pretty tempted to like give up is if we were close to like a nuclear blast or we're gonna get the radiation sickness and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Because isn't that pretty brutal?
Yeah. Depends how close you are.
Depends how close you are. But if it's really brutal, it goes quick, or no? Because I've heard mixed.
I mean, if you're in the blast zone, you're gonna get vaporized.
Well, yes.
If you're in like the fallout zone, it's not quick.
Yeah, which would be awful.
Yeah, it's rough. But
yeah.
Yeah,
But
I don't know. There's nothing you can really do about those, like the nuclear blasts and stuff like that.
But I am excited. Not to like just quickly jump back, but I am excited to get the food going and then canning and it because a lot of what we're doing is trial and error too, which is exciting, which is why it's going to take about a decade to master.
I wanted to double back. You said something earlier. You were talking about books, and there was something I wanted to talk about as well that has to do with this. Information in general. Right now, in the society we live in, if you don't know how to do something and you need to look something up, you need to teach yourself something, it's right on your phone. You can Google it. You can look it up on, if the internet is gone, never mind electricity, if the internet is gone, what access to information do you have?
Yeah.
Books is the next logical thing. You're going to, depending on the situation, you're going to be limited to books you have or places you know where these physical books are. So you're now very limited. Yes, you're very limited to the actual useful information you have. Maybe keep an actual useful library. Like, strive to have a useful library if you're going to be self-sufficient. Also, another big thing that you could do, which is why I do this with these notebooks and why I experiment, learn the scientific process and learn how to run your own experiments and gather your own data and make your own conclusions.
I love that. I was going to mention that you're writing everything down now, because I have to explain why I was laughing, because you were talking about a, productive library. What was the word you used? Having a useful books or whatever. And I'm just laughing because you're like, you only have, like, if something goes out, like, you only have what you have. And I'm just thinking about the smut books.
Smut books, history books, and, like, 5 homesteading books. Sick.
Hey, we got The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, so we're going to remember what Frodo did.
Yeah. So, but that's also my biggest thing as well, is I'll do experiments now that I know isn't going to be anything crazy. I know I can look it up and find the answers somewhere, but I run these experiments on my own to practice the process of drawing my own conclusions and actually learning myself. Because if you don't have books and you don't have internet and you are in a situation like this, it is useful to know how to experiment to actually find information that you don't know.
Yeah.
So that's my big thing. Like, if you're doing self-sufficiency, think about being information self-sufficient as well, and learn how to experiment and gather information on your own. So, yeah.
That's pretty. I think that's a wrap. I feel like
sounds good to me.
Pretty good talk.